If your quads are still looking like this months and years after ACL injury, this video is for you. In fact, up to 90% of ACL rehabbers struggle with quad atrophy even years and years after the injury and surgery. In today's video, I'm going to show you exactly how we battle atrophy with my clients and how you can implement it into your own rehab today. So if you're ready, let's dive into it. First off, why does this happen? Why does quad muscle atrophy happen and it's so common with post-op ACL or post-ACL injury? We're going to break down the 3 big reasons. Number 1 is going to be neurological inhibition. This is another word for saying a shutdown coming from your brain. Your brain has completely inhibited or altered the way we think about contracting the muscle. Right? This is very natural and happens to everybody post-injury and post-surgery. So it's not your fault. It's just something part of the mechanisms that your brain and body does automatically. So the first thing here we can see that everything starts from the brain. So the brain is no longer making that connection down into the quadriceps, which is obviously what we need to stimulate contraction and for it to activate. This is completely normal and everybody battles through it. The good thing is we can learn how to navigate this through different strategies, which we'll go over later. So the second reason is obviously in the beginning of, if you're post-operative, you're going to be quite immobilized. You're not going to be able to do much. If you remember in your first few days or weeks, your knee might look something like this, depending on the situation and the surgery that you had. You're going to be on the couch for a number of days and weeks. This lack of use, obviously, if we don't use something, the muscles are going to atrophy. We've heard of the saying, you don't use it, you lose it, right? So this is obviously very common. The third reason is pain and swelling. So pain and swelling is very common. Again, it's part of the process of an injury and surgery. So it has to happen, but we don't want these three things to happen for too long and drag on for too long because we need to battle the process of atrophy. Why does quad atrophy matter? And why do we want to build muscle? Why do we need the quads? It has been shown, and you probably can experience it for yourself in your own life, in your own activities, that quad size can actually decrease your function. So it decreases the ability for you to do different things, which can get quite annoying, right? So if we look at decreased quad size, it may lead to decreased quad strength. Now, there's not a total exact causation. So just because you have small quad size doesn't mean that you don't have good strength. But I would say 80 to 90% of people post ACL is going to have this problem. So what does this mean? It means, unfortunately, there is a less chance of us returning to sports if you are planning to go back to sports. This is going to be things that include running, jumping, and playing, right? Playing can mean moving in different directions. So because we need the quads to absorb forces, to propel forces, we really need that muscle to be the main protector for our knee, especially post-ACL. It can actually increase your chances of a re-injury, and this has been shown. Because many people, if they don't have strong quads years after surgery and they go back to playing sports and nobody has tested their mechanisms or their movement patterns, they can actually compensate really well with other parts of the body. So if the knee and the quads aren't doing its job, something else is going to have to help out and do the movement for it. For example, the hips. So this can actually increase your chances of a re-injury, and we don't want that, obviously. The last one is decreased quad size can equal early arthritis risk. Right? So this is something that obviously from a longevity standpoint, we want to try to control as much as we can. We know that anytime you have a post-op injury or surgery, you're going to have a higher chances of getting knee arthritis in the future. That's what the statistics show. But if you have weaker quads and smaller quads, you might be at an earlier risk. So just for you to know the stats of why quad size and quad strength matters. The good thing is you can beat the odds. The good thing is you can beat the odds. So just remember that. And the reason I can confidently say that is because I've worked with over 100 ACL rehabbers. And these are just some people in my current program right now, my current ACL coaching program, that are doing really, really well. This one is Brooke. I would love for you to guess which side is the ACL side because you can hardly tell. It's actually the right side here. So if you guess the right side, good job. But you can barely see. This is actually 10 months post-op. So we're at 10 months and this picture was taken very recently at 10 months. So we've battled this. We've been working together for the last 3 months. And this was one of the things, if we saw a before picture, it looks very drastically different than what you see now. So that's been 10 months and we still have a long way to go getting her back to high level football or soccer. Andrew is a football player, American football player. barely see the difference. Maybe you can guess. I'll give you a second to guess which one it is, but it is the right side. Right, so you can see slightly smaller, but you can hardly tell the difference. This is at 7 months post-op. So we're doing really well there. Bhavik is, in this case, it was a post-injury, so we haven't had surgery yet. So we were, I think we were 3 months post-injury, and we were trying to build the quads up because atrophy does happen immediately after the post-injury, not post-surgery. So we were trying to build quads up for 3 months, and we can hardly tell. And if you want to guess, it was the right side. So these are just common examples to give you the confidence and hopefully understand that it is possible to battle atrophy. So how did we do it? So how? I would say don't miss this point, right? This is something that most physios, most PTs won't tell you, is you've got to be rehabbing and thinking like an athlete. You've got to be rehabbing and thinking like a bodybuilder. When we think about bodybuilders, we think of people on stage, really aesthetic. They can pop pretty much every muscle in their body if they want to. They know how to flex them, right? We've got to think the same way. Right? If we want to build muscle, we've got to think the same way as a bodybuilder. So how do they think? They take their exercising seriously. They don't just exercise for the sake of going to the gym and not having a plan. We've got to have a plan. So first off, let's understand how many sets we should be doing per week. So ideally, we should be hitting 10 sets per week minimum for quad dominant exercises, right? So these are not going to be just squats or leg press, right? Most people will just think that squats, lunges, leg press are going to build their quads, but we've got to think about exercises that are quad dominant. So I'll put them up on the screen somewhere here. We've got to think about things like maybe the polyquin step up, right? So polyquin. We got to think about leg extensions. So exercises that actually isolate the quadricep muscles, not just generic or exercises that target multiple different muscles like the squats, lunges, and leg press. Not saying those things are bad, they just don't isolate the quads. And in this case, we've got to think bodybuilding. So bodybuilding is isolating. We want to isolate those quads. There will be a time and place for us to do compound exercises, things a bit more multi-muscle groups, things like that a bit later on. But if you really want to truly build your quadriceps, then we've got to focus on the quadriceps. So the first thing is 10 sets per week. The next important thing is a topic called reps in reserve. If you've never heard of it, it's basically how many reps do you have left in the tank before you completely fail. So the research is going to show we want to be hitting 1 to 2 reps in reserve. So RIR. So what does that mean? You want to be 1 to 2 reps away from maximum failure. So let's say you can do 10 reps, and that's your maximum for that weight. You're doing 70 pounds on the leg extension, and you know that 10 reps is going to get you to failure, right? So then what would be our 1 to 2 our reps in reserve? That would be 8 to 9 reps. So we want to be hitting 8 to 9 reps with that weight, making sure that we're close to failure, but not completely failure, right? So as long as we hit this number, every single time, you're putting in the effort and the intensity every single set to get your 10 sets per week, then you're on your way to getting that stimulus that you need to build those quads. It's not going to be easy, right? Most people don't know how to get to this number. Most people probably fall shy. They'll be falling into the probably 5 to 6 out of 10, right? When in reality, we should be much closer to 8 to 9. And the only way for you to truly know what 8 to 9 feels is for you to be pushing yourself every single set, and then you'll have an idea, okay, that is my true failure, right? Most people stop too early and they think that's their max. The last thing is time under tension. So time under tension is a concept that bodybuilders use essentially to build muscle, big muscles. Time under tension means you want to be going slow, right? You don't want to be moving things too fast. So if you're moving your exercises way too fast, you're not going to build much muscle from that. For us to stimulate that growth, you want to be putting time under tension, at least 2 to 3 second tempo, right? So 2 to 3 second tempo, specifically on the way down. Now, let's talk about protein. Now, we won't go into the details of nutrition today, but as a general rule of thumb to build muscle, the research still stays at these numbers. You've got to be hitting your grams per day, right? So protein goes by grams based on your body weight. So if you're looking at it from pounds, we've got to be hitting 0.8 to 1 gram per body weight. So if you're 150 pounds, then what you should be getting? You should be getting close to 150 grams per day. If you're using kilograms, you're going to be somewhere between 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilograms of body weight. Those are non-negotiables. That's what the research states. In order to build muscle, these are the numbers that elite athletes and elite bodybuilders use, and we can utilize the same principles for rehabilitation. So I would say don't go shy on this. Obviously consult with your nutritionist or dietitian if you have medical conditions that coincide with protein or don't go well with protein. Obviously this is not medical advice, this is just general advice. Sleep is going to be very underrated, most overlooked in order to build muscle. So very simple, sleep is going to be different for everybody, but I would say the research says 7 to 9 plus hours per night. We can dive into this deeper with quality of sleep also matters, but let's start with the amount. Most people don't even get 7 to 9 hours. Now, patience, everybody's, we're all impatient people, especially in today's society. We all just want to move things along really fast. But I would say, based on research, you need at least a minimum of 8+ weeks for you to notice any changes in muscle size, right? 8+ weeks, even is going to be closer to 12+ weeks, to be honest with you. Right, so being patient, giving yourself a 2 to 3 months minimum to see a muscle change, but also seeing the difference in strength. So that concludes the video. Hopefully you found that helpful and relatable to your ACL rehab. So if you're struggling with building quad size, you just know that you're not alone. It is possible, but it does take a lot of work. Focus on rebuilding the right way, and then I'll promise you'll start to see results. But you have to lock in on the principles that we talked about today. If you found this video helpful, like, subscribe, do all the things that would help me. It just lets me know that I'm helping and I'm giving value the right way so that I can keep making more videos just like this. And I have a free masterclass that I would like to share with you if you're going through ACL rehab. It explains the 3-step process that I use for every single one of my ACL clients to successfully graduate them to run, jump, and play the way that they want to. I'll leave the link in the description below. We'll see you next time.